Welcome to another episode of One-on-One with Mitch Lafon. Joining me this week from the Black Veil Brides, Andy Biersack, talking about their new Alive and Burning DVD, as well as Kiss Talk. We always talk Kiss with Andy. At the end of the episode, stick around. I've got a tour update from Australian blues rock guitarist Hamish Anderson. You may remember Hamish from a previous episode. Well, he was in Canada recently, and I got to go backstage and have a quick chat to find out how it was touring North America for the first time. This episode is brought to you by the Heavy Montreal Festival, taking place August 7th, 8th, and 9th at Parc Jean Drapeau in beautiful downtown Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Korn, Slipknot, Faith No More, and many, many more this year. Check that out at heavymontreal.com. And joining me as my co-host to discuss Andy, Hamish, Heavy Montreal, and anything else that we feel like is the one and only Mark Strigl of Talking Metal. Head over to talkingmetal.com. Good day, Mark.
Hey, Mitch. How are you?
Well, exhausted from that intro. I got to tell you, I need a breath.
A lot in there, but a lot of important stuff. I mean, Heavy Montreal, I cannot wait to get up there to hang with you in person for 3 days straight at the festival.
Yep.
So many great bands, and it would be cool if Black Veil Brides played there one year. Have they ever played Heavy Montreal?
No, they haven't, but they're on the list. They got to be on the short list. The band is popular. Their fan base is absolutely rabid.
Right on.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not 2016, it'll probably be 2007. I mean, it's coming. Black Veil Brides at Heavy Montreal is coming. That is definitely for sure. And that's the great thing about the Alive and Burning DVD. It's a show filmed out in Los Angeles, California. Listen, you got everything you need right there. It's the band. It's great. Great live performance. And the other fun thing about Andy is, even though he's younger than both of us, he's just as much a Kiss fan as both of us, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I know. I was told by him, actually, that his favorite Kiss record is his first Kiss record, which is Revenge, which is just mind-boggling for a guy who started listening to Kiss, at age 9 back in the 70s.
Yeah,
that Revenge would be somebody's introduction to the band, but it's great, and
it is a great album, by the way.
Yeah, amazing, and there's just so many different generations now of Kiss fans that say what you want about the band. I think it's cool that they have such a wide reach as far as the age range of their fans.
Yeah,
go.
And what I also find interesting with Black Veil Brides is a little bit how Andy and the band have sort of followed the Kiss formula to success. First of all, hard work. Gene and Paul, love them or hate them, they are hard workers. So the hard work thing,
definitely.
The whole visual concept of the band, they had a plan. They've done that. They've changed a couple of members, maybe not a key to success, but he had a focus. It's music first, and I need to get the right musicians, and the band they've got right now is definitely the right group of musicians. He's following that sort of Kiss ethos and philosophy, so good for him, and good for their fans. Boy, their fans are, you talk about a Kiss army. There is a Black Veil Brides army that unbelievable. Whenever I mention anything BVB on Twitter or anywhere, right away it gets like 1,000 retweets, and and the retweets keep coming. I took a picture with him in February, and it's still getting retweeted in July.
Wow,
it's unbelievable. And his family is on there. His dad works the Twitter and always is. It's just a great thing. It's like a family business. It's a great thing to see. And Andy's just absolutely charming, wonderful. Out of nowhere, he contacted the Kiss podcast that I was on and said, I want to do an interview with you guys. Came on. And then after that, he invited all the hosts, including myself, to come out to shows and all access passes. And I mean, who does that, right?
Yeah,
I mean, just
it's great.
Great guy. Why don't we sit back and have a listen to my conversation with Andy? It is an exceptionally long one, about 45 minutes. So a lot to listen to, a lot to enjoy. Here's Andy. We are talking with Andy Biersack of the Black Veil Brides. Andy, always a pleasure to chat with you.
Always a pleasure.
Always, always,
Very good to
always.
talk to you, Mitch.
Thank you. Let's get right into the Alive and Burning DVD before we forget. Brand new album, brand new DVD represents the live show. Talk to me a little bit about the importance of a Black Veil Brides live show.
Well, obviously, we've spoke before at length about the influence that Kiss has had on me and my band. And, that was something that very early in my life, going to see live concerts was going to see Kiss and Motley and AC/DC and the bands that had this sort of spectacle as their show. And also even just watching VHS tapes of those concerts as a kid. To me, a rock show was always this kind of larger-than-life experience. And by and large, the rock industry, just given the times that we're in, there isn't really the funding for the large-scale shows for a lot of the bands. And so it's always kind of been a shame for me that as we've come up in the clubs and everything, we've never really had the opportunity to put on a large-scale show. As our career kind of grows and as we've been afforded the opportunities to do more with our stage show, it felt like it was time to kind of capture that on film, and I'm really happy with how it came out.
Is there a point where, well, I'll put it this way, what is more important to you at the end of the day, the live presentation or the music?
Well, I honestly don't think that they're mutually exclusive. Okay. I was speaking to Dee Snider about this recently.
Right.
To me, when you're making a record, you're in that mode, and you're in the mode of creating your art, and it's all about the music and everything. And then when you go on tour, I think that there is certainly room for the presentation and the aesthetic and everything. I think that often a lot of people say, I guess, what I find to be inaccurate statements about how it should be all about the music and that kind of thing. Because to me, if it were all about the music, then you would stay at home and you wouldn't dare play in front of somebody because there wouldn't be a necessity for a show. The minute that you start to have any kind of lights on stage, or the minute that you start to do any kind of presentation value, that's when you start to see that it is a show, and why not go for the best you can get?
Yeah, I fully agree. The band has released 4 albums in 4 years. Is there a point where you take a couple of years off and let that sort of stew, or are you currently on the road writing new material for a new album?
Every time we release a record, I say, okay, well, this is the one that we're going to take a couple of years off, and we're going to, I guess, enjoy a little bit of off time or something. And come about 6 months into the touring cycle, I'm always like, okay, all right, it's time again. I got the bug. Let's go record. Because honestly, we love making records together.
Right.
So it's a really enjoyable experience. And obviously getting the chance to work with people like John Feldman and Bob Rock. And we've had so many great opportunities in our career that the process of making records has always been such an enjoyable one that we kind of see no reason to not continue to go that way. While we're still being given the opportunity to make records and given a budget by a label and are getting the opportunity to do it, I don't see a reason to not keep going.
Do you prefer to write on the road? I mean, is that a good venue for you to write, or you like to just lock yourself away for a bit? And
everybody's different. I think for my guitar players, they enjoy writing on the road. They like the process of. They both have full Pro Tools setups in their bunks with MacBooks attached to the ceiling upside down. They're always writing and they're always working and producing little demos here and there. For me, I tend to like to kind of, I guess, be somewhat secluded when I write. We worked with a guy named Marty Fredrickson years ago, mm-hmm. and he said that he came up with the term that it's like I'm going out to talk to aliens when I write songs. And so I've kind of always had that, which is that I like to go out by myself and I'll come back in 20 minutes later and have a completed song that I believe in fully, and I want everybody to read and see and hear and everything. So I don't know. I think that I like kind of the process of the collaborative effort of being on the road with the guys and sitting in the front lounge and coming up with melodies. But I also really enjoy the seclusion of just, particularly for lyrics, being on my own.
Yeah, from the first album, We Stitch These Wounds down to Black Veil Brides, the sound of the band has evolved. It's not exactly the same from the first album to now.
Right.
Is there a Black Veil Bride sound, or do you like that freedom of exploring whatever you sort of feel like on the next album?
I think in many ways we've kind of, I don't know that we have found the exact sound yet, but I feel like we have discovered ourselves between Wretched and Divine to Black Veil Brides 4. I feel like there's certainly an element to the band that is much more clear musically. Mm-hmm. You can draw, not necessarily a comparison, but you can certainly see a through line when it comes to thematic elements of the lyrics to the kind of the musical style. But I like the evolutionary process. I like going in and making a record and going, let's not rely on things that we've done in the past. Let's try to innovate and let's try to continue to improve ourselves. I'm the kind of person that I don't believe that we've done our best thing yet, and I like to continue to push down that road until I feel like we're at that point.
Is there an inherent danger though in evolving all the time? Can you not alienate a certain part of the fan base as you move along, or is that just sort of, hey, it is what it is?
Well, I think that there's certainly something to be said for that. The idea that you will evolve past your audience, where and there were bands growing up that I listened to where that was sort of the case. It was people that I loved their first couple records, or I was a big fan of what they did, and then through time I just started to feel detached from who they were because they kind of maybe didn't necessarily mind that the fans were kind of becoming alienated or something like that. I like to think that as a band, we've always been very mindful of our audience while still maintaining the idea of not pandering. So I don't know. I mean, you always run that risk, but I've been very fortunate that our audience has grown and evolved with us. And who knows, maybe we'll hit that wall eventually. But at this point, it seems like every record that we make, the fans have really taken to.
Yeah, I think so. Talk to me about your fans. I have followed, and we've mentioned, we've talked about Kiss. You've mentioned Dee Snider of Twisted Sister. Bands with 30, 40 years career with a fan base that's rabid. I haven't seen that in a new band like I see it with Black Veil Brides. There is this, I don't even know how to describe it. It's sort of a osmosis or some kind of process where you're just all one. How important are your fans to you?
Well, I mean, I've said before, the band was never the kind of band that was taken in as kind of media darlings, or we were never the band that was supposed to succeed the way that we have.
Right.
Very early on, we couldn't so much as get a booking agent. We had people who would say, it's not 1985, this will never make any money for anybody, blah, blah, blah. And it was really the fans who took to the band, who created every opportunity that we've had. They've really knocked down the doors for us and given us the kind of, to the extent that we've had mainstream success, I don't know what you want to call it, but the success that we have had has come from that audience. And, I'll have young bands ask me, how do you cultivate an audience like that? And I think I'd be lying if I tried to tell anybody a formula, because it was just kind of a perfect storm. And we've been so lucky and so fortunate that people have continued to pile on and to grow in numbers every tour that we do and every record that we release. And I think that the live DVD thus far has been a great example of that. We just got numbers back today that says it was the number one release this week in the UK. We'll get US numbers later in the week. And it's really exciting. It's exciting to know that there's such a connectivity there.
With that connectivity, do you feel a certain responsibility in terms of some of the things you do in your personal life or some of the actions you take? Or is it like, hey, listen, I'm just a singer in a rock band. Leave me alone. I mean, where do you see yourself?
I try to be really clear with our fans that I have no delusions that I'm a role model.
Right.
I don't, and some people, it kind of pisses me off in a way, because I we'll see people who assume this position of being some, I guess, omnipotent being amongst mortal men. And to me, I like to say that I'm a product of hard work.
Right.
I'm a kid who came from a small town and had a dream and had worked my ass off to get to the point that I'm at. And I believe that anybody who listens to us can achieve their dreams if they work hard. I try to be as pragmatic as possible when it comes to talking to kids about the dreams that they have, and really the only true way to get anything done in this life is to work hard. So I don't know that I take responsibility towards my actions so much as I take responsibility to my actions as a human being.
Right.
As someone who tries to be a good person, I wouldn't want to lead astray a bunch of people who look up to me. But by the same token, I'm not basing my every decision on, is this going to be okay with a group of kids? Because I feel like once you get to that point, you're starting to kind of pander, and you're going to be disingenuous as an artist.
Right. There's no focus group then, right, before you make a decision, is what you're saying.
No, but it's unfortunately it's not uncommon for that to kind of be the mindset of a lot of bands. What are fans going to say about this? And I think ultimately the art suffers because people are playing it too safe.
You mentioned that you're sort of the small town kid that succeeded in an industry that just isn't very conducive to new talent. How did you make it? I mean, is it just sort of the old cliche, hard work, or you know?
Well, I grew up playing sports, and my father was always a big advocate of being the best at things, and the way to get to that was hard work. In many ways, to this day, my relationship with my dad is still very much a coach mentality. I'm very close with my dad and my mom, but
Hmm.
my father growing up was always very much equal parts cheerleader and coach, and also very hard on me to push myself. So I grew up from a very young age with that idea that if you want something, you have to work very hard for it. I meet a lot of people who I can't fathom how they have the success that they have had, and it is true that sometimes people fall into success. I was not one of those people. I was the kid who was at 15 years old learning how to screen print T-shirts so that I could have merchandise to hand out to people at shows that I played locally in garages and basements and everything. Painting gear so that I could have something that looked professional, loading stuff myself, tearing seats out of old vans so that I could have a feasible touring vehicle. And those are the things that the foundation that I had going into the music industry was that hard work was going to pay off. And I've never been one to back down from a challenge. And I think that anytime we've had anything that's been in our way, we've always tried to bulldoze it as much as possible.
Uh, One of another challenge that you have coming up is you've talked about a Andy Black solo album. Is that still happening, or is that something you sort of put aside for now?
It's still happening. I mean, to be honest with you, I've been constantly working on it for, I guess, over a year now. I have an endless number of songs, some of which are very good, some of which are not very good. I will release that record when I feel that it is a record to be released, if you know what I mean. There's no rush with it because it isn't, it's kind of something I'm doing on my own. Unlike a band scenario where everybody else's lives are in the same mix as yours, you don't want to be the guy who's pushing everything back and saying this isn't good enough or whatever. But I really have a chance with the Andy Black thing to be as perfectionist as I want to be, and to really find the right sound for it. It's nice that it's something that's so open-ended because it doesn't require any forethought when it comes to what's this going to sound like, what is the visual nature of it going to be. I can really let the kind of music explore, and I can see where it takes me.
With a band like Black Veil Brides, though, where your music does sort of change from album to album and evolves, can you not take the material for the Andy Black project and incorporate it into Black Veil Brides? Is it so different that it just would not work?
Well, I guess a good song is a good song, and as the sound, I mean, there was one song that I wrote about, I guess, maybe 2 years ago with John Feldman that I considered using for the last one for Bride's record, but I just decided that I thought anything that I was in the headspace for with Andy Black, I didn't want to mix him. I didn't want to meddle with that. I'd rather dedicate the time that I'm writing for Black Veil Brides to Black Veil Brides and not have it be, well, this is a song that maybe could fit. Because it's like once you start doing that, then you're kind of losing the magic of what making a record is, which is that this is a bundle of material that is going towards something greater. One of the tragic things with many first records that people have is, the Elvis Costello thing. You have 18 years to write your first record and 2 years to write your second. I sort of believe the opposite. I think the many first records sound like shit because they're jumbled together bits of material that people have had their whole life. There's nothing really all that cohesive about it. That's why something like Appetite for Destruction is so amazing, because you're looking at something that's a debut record that seems so cohesive and perfect. It's very rare that you see that freshman effort being so, thought out, because it is, well, I wrote this song when I was 16, and this is great. Maybe if we move this around and add a bridge to it. I think that I wouldn't want to piecemeal the elements of what Black Veil Brides is with Andy Black.
Yeah, sorry, and I'm losing a little bit of the audio there. But let me keep going. So then, if and when the Andy Black project comes out, visually, then will it also be completely different? Because if you come out sort of looking like Black Veil Brides, wouldn't that sort of muddle the waters for fans?
Absolutely. The look of Andy Black is, again, the idea was to do something that's a little bit more, for lack of a better term, I guess, Elvis-y or romantic, something that's a little bit more clean cut and kind of has a noir feel to it. That's not something that I necessarily want to do with the Black Veil Brides, because that's not the aesthetic that we built, and it's not what I feel when I'm on stage with Black Veil Brides. If I walked out in a black suit with a pompadour in Black Veil, I don't think that I would, emotionally, I wouldn't feel the same thing. And there's something to be said, by the way, for the aesthetic matching the performance.
Right.
If I'm in, if I have long hair and a ripped up T-shirt and bandanas, I feel like I'm in a hard rock band on stage with pyrotechnics behind me. It all works to the same kind of thing. I think that the look of Andy Black will be very different. And also, I'm still in the beginning stages. I'm in the stages of figuring out what the live band for that will be, what the presentation will be. Will there be a full band? Will it be something where I have a keyboard player and guitar player? Am I going to have a live drummer? What is the idea for that? It's still something that's kind of bouncing around, and it's been kind of fun to talk about. I'll talk to my tour manager about, wouldn't it be funny if we did this and that, or wouldn't it be wild if this was the way it happened? And I'll just kind of looking towards the future when inevitably I do tour the project.
It'll be an all Kiss covers album, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Bob Rock produced the last album. He has done some of the biggest albums in rock history, including Metallica's Metallica, known as the Black Album, and Motley Crue's Dr. Feelgood, Sonic Temple by The Cult, and so on and so forth. What did he bring to the Black Veil Brides, and what did you learn from him that you could use going forward?
Well, on a personal level, vocally, I learned how important energy is in a vocal take. It's something that's so minuscule, and it's only really something that can be heard if it exists. You know what I mean? Like, if it isn't there, you're not listening to a song going, "Wow, this sounds like this doesn't feel like a live take." But if you have it, you go, "Wow, there's so much energy in this song. What is it?" I don't necessarily think that my vocals sounded vastly different than the previous record, but I think that the vibe and the style in which they were being done was something that he brought out of me, and something that I've learned that I'll never let go of, which is to try to deliver as much on-stage style energy to the vocal booth as possible. But I mean, Bob was just a endless source of not only kindness and teaching, but also just fun stories. You can't really go wrong with sitting in a room with a guy who knows everything about rock history and has been involved in, some of the most hallmark moments of rock history. So, I mean, just about every day we would have story time, and you just sit down and listen to him talk about whatever happened in 1985.
Those must have been great stories. Would you use Bob on the next album? Because you sort of change producer with every album. Is that something you want to go explore with another producer on the next one out? Or, hey, this worked with Bob, let's bring him back?
I spoke to Bob, and I think that for me, I would be very lucky if we were able to make another record with him. At this point in where I'm at creatively, I don't know that I want to make the kind of record that we just made. It's not to say that I'm going to turn our backs on what it was, but I would like to, if anything, I think I'd like to go back and visit in some ways the theme elements of the concept record that we made. And also, Jake, my lead guitar player, is quite a producer in his own right, and I'd like to be able to have him in a situation where he gets a co-production credit. It's very likely that we'll work with John Feldman in some capacity, but I would be very lucky to work with Bob again, and to have the opportunity to learn from him even more. It's been an incredible experience getting to know him and spending the better part of the last year chatting with him and working with him, and I can't say enough good things.
Yeah, he really is just a fantastic producer. Now, yesterday, and it's going to be a little bit after people hear this, but it was Eric Carr's birthday, the former drummer of Kiss. He would have been 65 had he not passed away. Let's talk a little bit about Kiss for a little bit before I let you go. What are your thoughts of Eric Carr as a drummer?
As a kid, one of my favorite things to do was to play along with these little. My dad would go see this chiropractor, and the chiropractor had pens, like novelty pens that he'd give away with like his name and information about the practice and everything on it. And the pens were shaped like spinal columns. And I would grip like the curved end in my hand, and I would drum along to the Carr jam on Revenge. Right. Every single day. I mean, I made little drums in my room with boxes that for a snare drum, I had a box that had tape over it, and I put change inside so it would rattle like a snare drum. and I had like a little makeshift kit with pots and pans and boxes, and I learned on my makeshift kit how to drum the car jam, and to this day it's still one of my most fond memories of childhood. But as far as a fan of Kiss and looking at Eric Carr, he was, for me, as someone who got into the band post the original four.
Right.
I preferred his style to Peter's. Creature of the Night has always been one of my favorite records. I love that big booming, John Bonham style. I think that's the kind of drums that, even in my band that I'm in, where we have that big double kick sound. It's just something that's always been really, cool to me, for lack of a better term. So, and also I dug, in terms of character design, I dug the Fox makeup. I thought I liked that look.
Yeah, it's a great look. You've changed your look a little bit. I mean, you had the whole makeup thing. Now you're doing the no makeup thing. Um, for Kiss with their look, when they get new guys, and should they be changing the makeup?
It's hard to say. I understand the argument for changing the makeup.
Right.
I can remember having conversations with my dad when the reunion happened, telling him how much I wish that they would just keep Bruce Kulick and Eric Singer in the band and give them new characters, as opposed to bringing back Ace and Peter.
Right.
Even prior to like us going to see the reunion concert, I love their style and everything. And I remember, I remember drawing on pictures of the Revenge era what I would perceive the makeup designs to be for those two guys. When Eric came back and had the cat makeup, I understood it. I mean, from the perspective of somebody who is in a band and has I guess, a myriad of merchandise wherein I have to protect what you might call the brand of the band, I can understand that to not confuse the marketplace is a valuable thing for guys who are coming down to the end of the line physically with how much they can do touring for Kiss,
Right.
and they can continue on the brand aspect of it for considerably longer than their physical ability to tour. So to introduce new characters in the last 15 years of the band, I could see where there would be hesitation. Again, I can understand people's trepidation about seeing Tommy in the Ace makeup or whatever else, but I've always maintained that if you look at somebody being in a Kiss cover band, devoting their whole life to Kiss, learning all of Ace's moves, and getting to be in the band as a character one day, because inevitably Ace could not work out in the context of Kiss, it's really a great story for Kiss fans, and I think a lot of times Kiss fans miss that because they're busy with the devotion that they have to the individuals. I went to go see Ace on his solo tour with our assistant, and we had a great time and sang along to all the songs. And of course, he had to get in a few digs here and there about how much better his drummer sounds than Paul singing and all that kind of stuff. But by and large, the show was entertaining. And I've read Peter's book, and obviously I've spoken to you about that before, so the constant level of complaining in it. But I'm a fan of Peter as well. I don't have any grudges against any members of the band because, again, as someone who's a fan of the band, I have the perspective of understanding, but I'm also a musician myself, and on a scale where I know how hard it is to try to rebrand something, I need go no further than any time that the band is involved in, let's say, a Billboard music event or something. The intern that works for Billboard Music will Google search Black Veil Brides, and they'll pull up an image of us circa 2009 with, my hair to the sky and makeup all over my face and lipstick on. And you go, well, I understand that was an element of the band and an era of the band, but I don't necessarily know that it represents what the band is currently. So you have to embrace those things that are the past. And I think that the way the Kids have done that is by embracing the characters individually and making it into something that is a marketable thing for the future.
Yeah, and as a fan myself, I really have no issue with Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer wearing the sort of classic makeup, because I see it much like a baseball team. Just because Babe Ruth isn't a Yankee anymore doesn't mean the whole team has to change their uniforms, kind of thing. So,
sure. Do you think that you would have, out of curiosity, would you have that same perspective if it were Gene or Paul in the same position? Say it comes down to Gene leaves, can't do it anymore, and Paul puts in a new demon. Is that a line that then is crossed?
For me, honestly, no. Listen, I've gone out and seen the band Foreigner play a couple of times in the last year, and it was 5 new guys. There was not a single original member. And to me, I think for music, what it comes down to is songs. As long as the songs sound good, sound great, and you can have a good time at the show, I think we're in business. I really don't. I'm not a purist. Quite honestly, I'm not. Um, and I think that's the important thing. Also, when you look at the Black Veil Brides, it's about the songs, right? I mean, you've changed members, and
Right.
it hasn't killed the band. It hasn't destroyed your fan base. You come out there like on the Alive and Burning DVD, and you deliver a performance of the songs, and fans love it. And what's wrong with
Right.
that?
Understood. Yeah. No, I understand.
Yeah,
I guess for me, there is a certain element that I can kind of see both sides simply because I you fall in love in some ways with the personality when you're really a big fan of the band.
true.
In the same way that I'm a big football fan. Chad Johnson is my favorite Bengal of all time. I still wear my Chad Johnson jerseys. He's not on the team anymore, but I still associate that personality with the team. And
Sure.
you wish and you go, oh man, I wish he would come back and play before, I wish he would come back and retire in Cincinnati or something like that. You have those feelings. So I can understand the perspective that people have of, oh, I wish that Ace or Peter would come back, but it's not logical. And so I can understand what you mean.
The only thing I would say about Ace Frehley coming back, and I don't want to take a dig at anybody. Vocally, the band has struggled live recently, and
Right.
having Ace Frehley come back in and sing 3 or 4 songs to lighten the load of some of the other members would probably be very, very positive. I think if you start having Tommy Thayer singing, 5 Ace songs, that might be a little weird. I mean, I probably would
Right.
accept it, but it might be a little weird. So I think Peter Criss, on the other hand, I love him to death, but he's sort of like, like Chad Johnson or Joe Theismann with the Redskins. He's past his prime. I don't think he can come
Absolutely.
back. I
Yeah.
just don't think he can come back and be, he could certainly stand side stage and hand Eric Singer his drumsticks, but
Well, and also, Eric is such an integral part of the vocals that are going on now. I
well,
mean,
that's it.
really, you can hear how much he's carrying the show, and so yeah. I mean, and also, just not for nothing, but they're both very nice guys. And I've told this story before, but my first experience on a stage was at a Kiss convention. I sang Deuce on stage, and Eric Singer was the first musician I ever met who complimented me. And as a little kid, that was a big thing. And I just saw him and Tommy we played the Monsters of Rock in Sao Paulo a few weeks ago, and they were both very nice and kind and complimentary of the band. And so, for what it's worth, I'm a big fan of both of them.
By the way, is that something that you learned and took with you being in Black Veil Brides? Because, and I said it before, you're exceptionally kind to fans. You look on your Twitter, there's pictures of you with this person and that person. You're signing and you're talking and you're answering. And I've seen you at shows, backstage. And is that something that you learned from Eric Singer? Like, you got to be kind, or is that just your personality? Where no, I'm just a good guy.
I mean, to be honest with you, I think that it's a combination of the bands that I love that were kind and nice and inviting to the fans, and then also bands that were not. I went to plenty of shows as a kid where I got in line to meet the band at the merch table, and I walked up, and I'm talking like punk rock shows. This is not, I'm not trying to meet Whitney Houston or something. There's not a fervor to meet these people. It's just a band, a bunch of guys who are riding in a van, and I'm a fan of them, so I want to get an autograph. Plenty of bands were very rude to me and dismissive, and it stuck with me that that's not something I ever wanted to do. And then obviously meeting my heroes and having them be so kind and nice, you really learn that it's a really important part of this. Knowing that Sebastian Bach, knowing that Alice Cooper, knowing that Dee Snider, Eric Singer, all these people are so kind and so professional. You look at it and you go, okay, that's the model I want to follow. I don't want to be the Glenn Danzig who everybody is afraid to talk to, and everybody says he's a dick and blah blah blah. I don't want to have that out there in the world. I want to be the guy that is inviting and kind and makes people feel good about liking what I do.
Is that part of the success? Because I agree with you. I've met those guys. I've met Dee. I've met Al. They've been around for 40 years. Do you think part of the success is that they're just good people? I mean, other than hard work, which we spoke about before, is just being a good person part of the success of a band?
Certainly in terms of longevity. If you look at the people who are impossible to be around, you're finding a lot of guys that can't get tours and can't get booked somewhere.
Yeah. And the bands that
There's
you met, those punk bands, I'm assuming they've never become popular, right? They probably just
no,
disappeared.
no. Most of them fell by the wayside, and later I've actually met some of them or seen them working for other bands and kind of laugh about that the kind of the karma coming and biting you on the ass. But it's a completely different genre and it's kind of outside the box. But one of the things that they always say kept BB King going during the kind of the slim times for his type of music, and he was always able to get booked, was just kindness.
Right.
If it came down to him and somebody else in the same genre, and it was a casino that's booking a blues artist, they would go with BB King over the guy that was a known asshole because they knew that it was going to be a pleasant night and it was going to be a nice night.
Right.
In terms of longevity, keeping that ability up to just be kind and thoughtful is a huge thing.
Is that something you look for in a band member? Let's say one of your guys, and I don't want to name names because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. Let's say one of them was being a real dick to fans. Would you just take him by the wayside and say, "Look, dude, either you smarten up or I'm throwing you out of this band"?
I don't know because I haven't had that experience.
And I hope you don't.
Because of the devotion of the fans.
Right.
Really, every member of the band has a certain sect of the fan base that is completely devoted to them. And so, while all of us have met fans that were a little aggressive or said something weird or whatever, or we kind of
Right.
go, "What the fuck was that about?" and then we laugh about it. There's never been a time where anybody in the band has been outwardly rude or aggressive to anybody where I've ever thought, "Wow, I should put an end to that," because everybody in my band is nice people. At the end of the day, that's what it takes.
And that's what it takes to be successful. And and I wish you continued success. Now you've got you're on tour right now. You've got another one coming up in what am I trying to say here? You've got the Vans Warp UK tour coming up in October. Just tell me a little bit about that, and then I guess we'll wrap this one up.
Well, we've been doing the Warped Tour in the States for the better part of the last 5 years, and
Right.
we have a close connection with Kevin Lyman, the founder, and then the guy who started the Warped Tour, and it's the first chance that we've had to bring what we do here on the Warped Tour to the UK. We're obviously a band that's had a great amount of success in the UK, and when we got the offer that they were going to bring Warped Tour back to the UK, they've done it there a few times, but it's been off for a few years. So to bring it back and to be able to headline it is a huge thing. So we're very excited about that. We're also going to be probably coming back to North America in probably before the end of the year, before we enter the studio to do a string of dates. And then we've got a couple South American shows thrown in there. It'll be a nice way to end the year and then head back into the studio.
Yeah, it'll be a great way to end the year. Do you prefer the headline shows or the festival dates?
It really depends. Some festivals, particularly when we were first starting out, I think I would have rather been anywhere but on stage, just by virtue of the fact that you're the first band or you're the fifth band on the stage at 1 p.m. at a death metal festival in Germany, and you're Black Veil Bride. It doesn't really bode that well for you. But as the band has continued to grow now anymore, every festival that we do is a joy, and we've gotten the chance to play with such cool acts. Between just doing that Monsters of Rock a couple weeks ago to being one of the headline bands on the second stage of Download this year, and it's just there's so much that we've had an opportunity to do. So whether it's a headline show or a festival show, we try to treat it the same.
Oh, good. Well, listen, I know you're playing Toronto this Friday, and then hopefully you'll be back in Montreal really soon. Andy, always a pleasure, and of course the new DVD is Alive and Burning, which I've seen. What a great visual presentation that is. What a great concert DVD. I mean, well done. Really well done.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the goal with that was to try to. A lot of times I'll watch concert DVDs, and I like the aesthetic and I like the idea, but there's a lot of cutaways to interviews and
it drives
backstage
me crazy
shenanigans and everything. And I really wanted to give a presentation of what, in many ways, the same way that I would watch the Kissology DVDs and It's watching a show from start to finish. It's a few camera angles. It's really just it's the show as it is, and I think I love that about it.
Yeah, and that's what I like about it too. And you're so right. There are two bands that I love, Black Sabbath and Tesla, and they put out DVDs a few years ago where they see a song, then they do a backstage interview, and then you see a song, and then and you just think, well, you know what? That's great that you've done those interviews, and the first time I watch it, I'm interested, but the second time I watch it, I don't want to see that interview again.
Fair enough, yeah. Exactly.
I want to see Paranoid, so couldn't you have put that on chapter B and let chapter A, and so that's what I like about this one. You can sit back, you can have it on while you're cleaning the house, or you can sit there with a cold one and just stare at it, whatever you want. you just get the music, and that's the great thing about it.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Mitch.
Absolutely, Andy, and we'll talk again soon.
I appreciate it.
There you have it, folks. My discussion with Andy Biersack of the Black Veil Brides. Alive and Burning is the new DVD. I'll get back to Mark in a second to discuss Andy and the interview, but quickly, let's get a tour update from Hamish Anderson out of Australia, currently on tour. Fantastic blues rock guitarist. He's been compared to Stevie Ray Vaughan, Joe Bonamassa, and many more. If you haven't heard of him, go check him out. He's only 21. He's on Twitter, Facebook. He's got a YouTube channel. Just go discover Hamish Anderson. So quickly, here is Hamish Anderson backstage at the Blues Fest in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Here's Hamish. We are speaking with Hamish Anderson. So we've spoken before, and now you're on tour. You're in our beautiful capital city of Ottawa, and you played the FEC, the Festival d'été de Québec. Tell me a little about the experience of being on the road and in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. In Quebec especially was just amazing, and probably some of my favorite shows.
Yeah.
And we had 2 nights in the same venue, same time, and both nights, it was a Sunday and Monday, so I wasn't sure how it would go, and both nights, full house, and very receptive music lover audience, so it was great.
So tell me a little bit about being an Australian and coming over. I mean, how hard is it as a new artist without tour support, without the whole machine behind you?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is, and it's very much, when you travel around, it's very much hit and miss. You know, sometimes you'll go and it's a very quiet night, and then that's the thing I think, like with the Quebec festival that made it so special, is going somewhere I've never been to and have no presence, and actually having, you know, like a line down the street of people. It's just, it's all you really want as a musician.
It really is.
Yeah.
So what are the plans after this? Is it go back to Australia, or do you sort of want to focus on this market?
Yeah, back to America, back to LA for a little bit. And we're doing for the rest of the month, a little West Coast run, kind of starting in LA and then going San Diego, a few other places. And
it's a great city. Ever been?
Yeah, we did a couple of shows. It was beautiful. Yeah,
it's the greatest city on earth.
Yeah,
I love it.
We got lucky. We did a show opening for Los Lobos in San Diego
nice.
and Kenny Wayne Shepherd. So it's been really fun. And then after that, getting off the road for a little bit. In the next couple of months, are going to be recording focused and hopefully for building for the first full length album.
Yeah, I want to talk about the first one. Restless is the EP, came out in the fall.
Yeah.
Are you writing while you're on the road?
Yeah, I mean, writing on the road's always a tricky one, but I had a little bit of time off in between these gigs, and I did a lot of writing, and I'm very much ready, I think, to kind of get off the road for a minute and get in the studio and do some new stuff. And we've been doing a couple of new songs live, and it's been getting really good response, so it's really nice.
Yeah, now when you do the full-length album, is there a certain sound that you want to lock into, or is it sort of more, is it Restless continued over, or are you going to explore something new?
Yeah, I think maybe even new, maybe even more kind of in the more exploring the blues stuff and even kind of longer guitar jam stuff. And really, I started a little bit. I don't know if it'll make the album, but very much going to be the first experience doing it on actual tape and stuff. So it's really nice to really capture the live sound.
And as we can see, the audience is emptying out here, so we'll wrap this up. But you got to open for B.B. King before he passed away. Just quickly, tell me how that was. I mean, he's a legend.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. And I grew up, I remember my dad, like me being like 14 years old, my dad playing me B.B. King records, and he really, as a guitar player, is up there as my biggest influence. And I mean, doing it was very bittersweet because it was his last tour, but it was, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like, it was just...
But you got to share a stage.
Exactly.
I mean,
it was...
Does it get any cooler than that?
Exactly. And the audiences were beautiful, and it was just a really... I'll never forget it.
How can you?
Yeah.
Always a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you. Great to talk to you.
Thank you. There you have it, folks. Blues rock guitarist Hamish Anderson out of Australia. Before that, Andy Biersack of the Black Veil Brides. Their new DVD is Alive and Burning. And yes, someday, I hope we will get to see them at Heavy Montreal.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? There's a lot of bands that I would like to see at Heavy Montreal. And no fault of the promoter, by the way. It's just a touring schedule, but I would like to see Anthrax. No, not Anthrax, pardon me. I've seen Anthrax there. I'd like to see Accept get in there.
Be a good one.
Armored Saint, I think, would be a good one.
Yeah, definitely.
Venom, I think, would be fun. I'm not a Venom fan, but they have a respect, you know. In the biz. I'd like to see sort of a Cinderella or a Poison on the sort of happier side of hard rock. A lot of great bands. Who would you like to see play heavy?
Well, I think Tool would be a good band
Oh,
to have there, and Muse.
oh, that's interesting.
Two bands that are not really, I wouldn't really call either one, metal, but they're definitely loud, heavy rock, and they both pull in a ton of people. I think they would be great to have there. I mean, I think Van Halen too would be
Yeah,
so much
Vanny.
fun
What
to have
about
there.
what about Nine Inch Nails?
Yeah. Nine Inch Nails would be good. Although I was a little, last time I saw Nine Inch Nails, they were focused so heavily on their like new material that I don't know. I'm not
Impressed.
really
Okay.
totally excited to see them play live again if all they're going to do is the, new stuff. It wasn't all they did, but it was 70% of the set was like the new record. And I was just like, what? People were there to hear the old stuff. Who
Soundgarden?
else? Soundgarden would be great. Sure. Iron Maiden.
Yeah,
Have
Iron
they done
Maiden
that?
played there. Was it the first one or the second? Either 2008 or 2010. And
Yeah.
that was just fantastic. I mean, that
Yeah.
was an absolute eye-popping show. That was right up there with the Metallica performance of last year.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely. Twisted Sister on their farewell tour next year, I think
Oh,
would
that'd
be
be cool.
I think they'd be great to come back. Boy, who else is out there that hasn't played that I think deserves a shot? This year we have Lita Ford. I think next year it'd be nice to have either Doro or maybe even Joan Jett come out and do a little spot.
Yeah.
I think that could be interesting. Anyway, just
I
so
mean,
many.
Ozzy would be cool, but I don't know how much more he's going to be
Yeah.
doing. I mean, but you'd think maybe in
Ozzy or Black
2016.
Sabbath or both. Or
Either or.
yeah.
I don't know. Like I just had Blasco on my podcast, and like he didn't have any information. He claims he made it sound like there's no plans going on for any new Ozzy solo stuff, or he didn't really seem to
No.
have anything to share about the future of Ozzy. And he kept referring to, well, Ozzy's kind of winding down his career. Ozzy's retiring, and stuff like that. So, and by the way, Blasco, former manager of Black Veil Brides, which I didn't know that. He
Yep.
told me that during the interview.
Yep, absolutely. He was my contact for a couple of occasions when I had to communicate with the band. I didn't mean to gloss over your Van Halen suggestion. I think that would be great. I think Van Halen
Yeah.
would be fantastic. And then there are some bands that I think need. Oh, Whitesnake, by the way, I think would be fantastic too. And then there are
Right.
some bands I would like to see return. Megadeth has played before. I think Megadeth coming back could be interesting. Alice Cooper has played it before. I think Alice Cooper coming back would be interesting. Boy, just a lot of great bands.
Yeah.
Maybe even
What
Seether.
about Seether? Yeah. I mean, what about like Robert Plant? Just a solo Robert Plant gig.
Well, it
I
depends.
don't-
If it's Robert Plant doing Led Zeppelin, then yeah, I'm into it. But Robert Plant these days is not doing Led Zeppelin. He's doing sort
Yeah,
of
he
this
does.
folk music kind of
No, he
stuff.
does about half the set is Zeppelin.
But
I
isn't
mean,
it
on
like a
the
folky
last.
Zeppelin? Doesn't he flower it up
No,
a
I
bit? No?
mean,
Okay.
sometimes it depends. It depends. I'll let you know because I'm actually going to see Robert Plant in about but less than 2 months. So I'll let you know how it goes.
Okay. I would really like to see Poison. I think if you could get Brett and the guys out there, last year there was Twisted Sister, and a lot of people went, "Oh, it's a hair metal band," blah, blah, blah. And then they played, and people went, "Oh,
Yeah,
okay."
the
And
crowd response
ah,
was
was
awesome.
was insane. And I think Poison, like him or lump him, they deliver a live show. Brett Michaels knows how
Absolutely.
to work a crowd. And whether you like the music, I love the music. I love Poison. I love everything
I do
about them.
too. I do too. And Brett Michaels is like Mr. Show Business, like you said.
Absolutely.
When he's on stage, it smiles. He makes everyone in the room feel like they're an important member
Absolutely.
of the performance that's going on. And
Oh.
when you're a casual fan, even if you're not a fan, if you're there when he's on stage, you get sucked into it.
Oh, absolutely. I think people would hem and haw and go, "Oh, Poison's not metal," and then they would play, and I think a lot of fans would go, "Oh, that was a really good time," and I think Brett would win them over. What do you think of a band like Def Leppard? Is that sort of too light, or could they deliver?
I don't think so. When you see like the variety of bands that they've had playing in Montreal, I don't think Def Leppard's too light.
Yeah, I think
I
they
think
could be
I
fun
think
too.
they'd be a great addition.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go. So
Absolutely. Cool.
there you have it. There is the latest one-on-one with Mitch Lafon. Please make sure to check me out on Twitter at Mitch Lafon. The one-on-one Facebook page is there. I also have my personal Mitch Lafon Facebook page. Mark. Oh, and of course, talkingmetal.com. Let's not forget to check out
Yeah, we got
talkingmetal.com.
Mitch's show up on talkingmetal.com. Mitch has his own section on the website, so you can listen to all the shows there. And sometimes we put up pictures and show notes and links and all that stuff. So definitely check that out. And you can listen to my show, Talking Metal, while you're on the site. And
Yep.
Mitch and I actually have yet another show called Metal Raps, which we haven't done an episode in the last couple weeks, so we need to
Well,
get on that. Maybe we can do one next week.
well, from what I understand, at Heavy Montreal, we're going to be doing a couple live
Yes.
backstage, or at least we're going to live to tape. I don't know if we're going to broadcast them live, but that'll be with Mitch Joel. That'll be great. Always a pleasure. And yeah, do check out both podcasts because they're very complimentary. We sort of feed off of each other. A lot of Heavy Montreal coverage on both. A lot of every band you want to hear, from hair metal to death metal. We got it covered. We got it all covered. Thank you, Mark.
Absolutely.